glaciers, then remaining in the groundwater, and only 1.2% fresh water we are having. Okay. Out of that 1.2% fresh water, there is the ground ice or a permanent frost, then lakes, and hardly 0.49% with the rivers. This is the overall water scenario. Okay. We are having. If we are talking about the global water scenario, yes, of course, as per United Nations report, 40% of the population is facing water stress. Okay. And the way population is increasing. In the month of November 2022, we reached the 8 billion population world over. But the way population is increasing, the consumption of water increasing much more faster than that. The population double hota hai, okay, it is going double fold, it is the consumption of water is going sixfold. Okay. Stockholm Water Institute, they did one study in 1989, and with that study they came up with okay, around 9,000 cubic meter water is actually available for consumption for a human being at the annual level. Okay, in 1989, which has decreased to 7,800 cubic meter by year 2000 and expected to decrease 5,100 by 2025. So there is a continuous decrease of the available water for the human consumption per capita at the annual scale. And of course, with respect to the India, 17% of the population of the world is residing in India, wherever the renewable capacity is 4%. Yes, we are very much aware the communities or civilization came along the rivers. Okay, water is the essential requirement. If you are talking about the Indus Valley civilization, the Saraswati Indus River, Egypt, so Mystica civilization, Nile River, then Tiber River is Roman civilization, or Helios, Athens, Greek civilizations. Okay. The different civilizations came in existence with the water bodies, along with the water bodies. Some other examples are also here, like a Joseph well, one of the oldest well in the Cairo, Egypt. Okay. And still that well is having water. Similarly, the 3,000-year-old water uh, underground water tanks called as cistern are there in Jerusalem, or so one of the old it means channel or canal of water with a length of 17 kilometers, okay, constructed by Appius Claudius in Rome. So those remains of the water structures are still there. This is a brief history of the development of modern water supply system in Europe. Started with the 9th century in Spain, then consecutively in the 12th century in Paris, and then 13th century in London. And accordingly, it was more or less by the beginning of 19th century, most of the European leading cities are having modern water supply system. If we are talking about India, in context of India, the great bath of industrialization site like Mohenjo-daro, okay, then water tanks or water channels of different sites of the industrial civilization. In case of the ancient India, the different monarchies and dynasties took initiative with respect to the development of different water structures, like the Gupta dynasty or Chora dynasty did in the various locations. At the same case, in case of the medieval India, the underground water conduits in Aurangabad, which were still very much there. Okay. At the same time, the Babri structures of Rajasthan and Gujarat are the prominent example of water structure developed by the humans in this particular region. Of course, the first Indian city got modern water supply system, which we are using nowadays. It is in city of Calcutta in 1870 AD. And then later on, the other cities are also some pilot projects, some areas are covered in the Madras and Mumbai. These are a few structures. This is the excavation photograph of Mohenjo-daro. This is the great bath and the tentative lining of the channels. How the whole phenomena or whole settlements are developed with the support of water body. These are few photographs from the boundary structures, the Adalatki Vav and the Rajasthan Boundary. Then evolution of the urban water system in India. So of course, if you are taking consideration of the scenario of water system or water supply of water availability at the time of independence, in 1951, but hardly 48.5% population was meeting potable water. And with time, it was realized by the international uh, society. Yes, of course, this is one of the very serious concerns. That's why Millennium Development Goal introduced in year 2000 during the United Nations Summit, and the goal was the portable drinking water for all in 2020. They targeted by 2015 will provide the water for all. But definitely they are not able to achieve the target, and accordingly they revise their target as a sustainable development goal number 6, as ensuring availability and sustainable management of clean water by 2023. Yes, of course, but still the numbers are not supporting the cause. Only 74% of the global population is having access to the potable drinking water supply. Means 5.8 billion population out of the 8. And after independence, okay, till date, in year 2022, our current level of potable water supply for the Indian population is around 85%. And with respect to the water available in the urban and rural scenario, where in the rural area, the water availability is 58%, and in case of the urban, it is 80%, 80.7%. Okay. This is the same information in form of the graphics. We out of the 80.7% water available, potable water available in the urban areas, within the premises, it is 56.1%, and just adjacent to the premises, it is 24.6%. As per standard, we used to follow the at least we supposed to provide 135 LBCD, but we are hardly able to provide 69.25 LBCD water in the our urban areas. And these numbers are very much giving us idea how we are going to face water as a big trouble in future. These are the 30 cities identified whichever will be waterless in coming future. And unfortunately, our Bhopal is also there at the rank 24. Sometimes even I thought why Bhopal is here. Indore is fine somehow with respect to the Mala plateau, the water condition and the rainfall. But with respect to the character of India, Bhopal as a lake city, the city of lakes, okay, by this water stress we are going to face in Bhopal city, then I got this clarity with respect to the increase of population, we are not able to improve the augmentation of water for the Bhopal. And the consumption rate of the Bhopal is much more than the rate of the consumption rate is much more than the augmentation with respect to the population growth from last 2 3 decades. Okay, so Bhopal is also in the loop. This is one set of information provided by Water Partner International Organization (WPI). The poor water supply, there are multiple reasons like poor maintenance, inadequate investment, uneconomic tariff structure, high non-revenue water, poor financial management, insufficient institutional structures. So there are a number of reasons. We will try to cover those reasons in detail in the successive slides. Now, the question was that what will be the approach I supposed to adopt to assess the water situation in urban India? So somehow I got this particular framework. This framework is called as Service Delivery Assessment Framework given by the Water and Sanitation Program, World Bank, under the United Nations. And this framework given in 2015, water ultimately is a public utility. So with respect to the public utility services, this particular framework was developed with three different categories. First category, enabling services, which are covering policy, governance, planning, and budget. Once we are in a position to enable the services, okay. If we are not able to develop, ultimately developing is the successive stage. But what about the funds? What about the plan? What about the policy framework under which we are able to develop? That's why it's enabling services. The next one is development services. Here, the input and expenditure component is there. Apart from that, equity. Why equity is very important? Government is not that kind. They are always thinking about poor or thinking about poverty. The concern to think about the poor and poverty is that to maintain the social equilibrium of the society and to avoid the any type of social unrest. That's why government has to think about the poor and poverty. And that's why it is very much required with respect to all utilities, services, and all public services. Now, the next one is service output. Whatever input we are actually investing, what output we are getting from our efforts. Okay. The, the last one is sustaining services. Okay, we have developed the service. But what will be the next stage? Because sustaining services itself is a very big G. In case of the GenNURL under UIG scheme, urban infrastructure and governance, as well as that was for the mission cities, bigger cities, and the other one was the UID SSMT, urban infrastructure development scheme for small and medium towns. So during those particular scheme, whatever fund government of India gave to the urban local bodies, some of the urban local bodies got fund under the scheme, they develop the infrastructure, but at present they are not able to run those infrastructure and still those cities are struggling to get the services. And one of the services, water supply itself. So that's why sustaining services is very important. What will be the strategy with respect to the operation and maintenance? What about the capacity building and expansion plan as and when required in the future? And finally, the ultimate outcome. The outcome means the resultant, which we are going to facilitate, satisfy the efforts. Okay, we are happy, we are comfortable, we are living our quality of life because we are having access to the services. So, first, the challenges in enabling services, the first one is policy and governance. Even though there are some sort of provisions we are having in our legislative framework, but still, with respect to the water supply system, there is a indirect and limited legislative capacities are provided in the legislative framework. There is no specific dedicated framework provided for the urban water supply system or services till June. In theory, of course, ULBs are autonomous. After the enaction of the 74th Constitutional Amendment Act (CAA) in 1992, urban local bodies were empowered to conduct the election, to develop their governance, governing framework, to run their operations, to collect the user charges. But even though they are very much dependent on the each and every small decision to the state government, they are not able to take their own decisions, not able to execute the things. So this is autonomous only in theory. Statutory framework, yes, in Town Planning Act of the states, in Municipal Act of the states, there are provisions. The urban local body, why we are talking about urban local body? Because in most of the cases, urban local body is the service providing agency with respect to the power, water supply. Whereas in some cases, Delhi Jal Nigam or state sewerage and water supply board are also there. They are also taking the responsibility for these services. But in most of the cases, it is urban local body, it means municipal corporation or a municipality. Right. So there is a provision with respect to the you can collect user charges, you're supposed to provide these services, but how to develop services, how to sustain services. If the users are not giving the charges, what will be your action? And there is one of the very popular case, judicial example, in which there is a discussion on it should be able to disconnect the water supply to any household. And ultimately, the mandate of Supreme Court in that particular case was that no, we cannot. But we supposed to come up with some other alternative solution. But as an essential need, water, we cannot disconnect the water to the household. That's why it is still a big trouble. At the same time, number of agencies sometimes involved in this particular process. Sometimes we are taking raw water from the source of irrigation departments, the water source. Sometimes the public health engineering department is also involved in this particular services. So number of department, number of agency, quasi-government agencies are involved. And in those cases, it is very difficult to define the role and responsibilities. And that's why this is also one of the issues. The organizational politics are always there. The vested political interests are always there to control the accessibility. Ultimately, you people are very much aware, you are working in the industry, having a lot of experience in your respective domain, how the things are actually moving in the system itself. Government working with their own set of structure, but at the same time, the politicians are having their own preferences, choices. I can share one of my example, my personal example. I'm not going to quote the name. I was working with the government of Gujarat in urban development department. Our minister of the urban development department, we had a great conversation with him regarding the enactment of the water meters. In specific term, we got fund for a satellite township project, and that fund was on the conditional basis. If you are going to take the user charges and you are going to means provide the proper calculation measurement of the provided water and connect the water meters with each and every household, then only we will provide you money. So we supposed to give the these conditions. We supposed to accept the condition and we supposed to give the in writing. Yes, we are okay with your condition and please give us the money. Bluntly, minister denied. He no. Elections are coming. If I am going to take money for the water, definitely I am going to lose. I cannot take money for the water. And ultimately, he closed the discussion. Finally, somehow we convince him. Right now, we will just give him writing. We'll execute the process with our own set of approach, and finally we'll see what will be happen later on. But yes, of course, taking means confidence of the political bosses are very difficult. What about Madhya Pradesh? Yes, sir. What about Madhya Pradesh? Madhya Pradesh. Sir, in case of the Madhya Pradesh scenario is even worse, we can say, because apart from you're talking about the big cities like Indore or Bhopal, the situation of Bhopal or Indore is not that good if we are talking about the ideal type of situation. So, of course, we cannot think about the other cities like the Khargone, Sihor, Raisen, and whatever. Now, planning. From years, we are preparing master plans, development plans. But those master plans and development plans are more or less land management tools. Hardly they took care about the how we are going to develop the infrastructure, what will be the strategy to develop the infrastructure, okay, how to come up with the distribution of the water supply, what will be the density distribution approach towards the water supply in the different region of the particular city or area. Department of Water Works, they are doing their own plans. Town Planning Department developing their own plans. Both are in the two different platforms in the isolation. Means they are in the silos. And that's why once the plans are executed, they are not complementing each other. And this is trouble identified by number of consultants, number of experts over the time at different platforms and different research works. And that's why nowadays government is insisting in some cases, in some states, if once you are preparing the master plan, please prepare the pre-DPR report with the master plan. That is the feasibility type of report. At least not detailed technical engineering details report, but at least pre-DPR or a feasibility report along with the master plan to connect the all infrastructure aspects with this master planning process. One of the biggest trouble for any document is demand assessment. Demand assessment is always a big challenge. Not a single master plan of India till date able to claim if their population projections actually gave the same result which are happening today in the specific area. Most of the time, these population projections are failing because one single method of population projection cannot satisfy the actual trend of development in any specific area. We used to adopt भाई geometric ले लेते हैं, aggressive है, incremental ले लेते हैं, थोड़ी moderate है, arithmetic तो थोड़ी dull है, exponential थोड़ा और ऐसा है. But we supposed to adopt number of population projection method within one specific area. ठीक है, we're taking care about the density distribution in the area. And that's why one of the method called as zoning method adopted by some of the urban local bodies, in which based on the density within the zone, they adopted the specific type of forecasting of population. And apart from that, there is no clarity with respect to the available resources. A lot of assets they are having, but those assets are unexplored. And even sometimes there is no inventory available of those resources. I was working for Jamnagar Municipal Corporation for one water supply project, and we asked them the actual project was extension of the water supply of the existing water supply. So in that case, we asked them what is the current status of your water supply. Please hand over all the designs and details available with you. Unfortunately, they were not able to produce. I don't know what was the reason, but the bottom line was that tentatively we came up with our own estimates, our own indicative networks based on our investigation. That was the situation. Another big important aspect is budget. Urban local bodies are already facing financial struggles. They are very poor in financial health. Every year in the month of March, we used to read the news in newspapers in Bhopal itself. भोपाल म्युनिसिपल कॉर्पोरेशन इस महीने की तनख्वाह नहीं दे सकती, उनको अगले महीने 2 महीने की मिलेगी. अब this is the case of Bhopal Municipal Corporation, the capital of the state. Okay, what about the other municipal corporation or municipalities or Jila Panchayat or other organizations, similar organizations? How they are actually running the show? Yes, because the income is less, limited assets, ultimately not able to reach to the high expenses and number of liabilities. Bhopal Municipal Corporation is supposed to give interest to the different organization from which they actually took the loan. ठीक है, तुमको इंटरेस्ट देने में खूब सारा खर्चा होता है. Apart from their expenses in the different heads, more or less dependency on the grants and loans only. Right? Once they are interested to develop some sort of infrastructure, I have another example, not related to the water supply. I was involved with the one of the junction improvement plan. Okay, for one junction of Bhopal with merit, one of the Professor Siddharth Rokade was there. Along with him, we were working on something. So that time we come up with the idea, we developed the plan, recommended to remove the rotary from particular junction, but there is a condition to remove the rotary. Once if the ULB is going to remove the rotary, they are supposed to provide the proper signaling system as well as the islands on the junction and proper maneuvering and circulation. What exactly they did? They just removed the rotary, that's it. And then we went to the municipal corporation, we went to municipal commissioner. They told us, unfortunately, we dried up in our funds. We do not have funds and we are not able to continue with this particular design. Rotary गया, signaling आया नहीं, kiosk बढ़ गया. पहले ही ठीक. I don't know what was the ultimately this is the same situation we are facing with the water supply system also. Non-revenue water. In case of the Bhopal, I'm not quoting the value here because that value I got verbally during the discussion. In the Bhopal itself, the NRW is around 35 to 40%. Means whatever water we are means urban local bodies are providing to the users, out of that water, 35 to 40% people are not paying the user charges. Okay, 15-20% is we can understand. If 15% or 20% water whichever we are providing to the slums, PWS or some means common water in the different locations. But what about the remaining 10-15% or 20%? Yes, if we are avoiding this non-technical and illogical grounds, of course, the political interference are in a lot of trouble because they are very much involved in the all decision-making things. As a technocrat, only blaming to the politicians cannot resolve the problem. We're supposed to think how to convince the politicians, take it with the different scenario development or examples or some sort of involvement or some sort of incentive which is supposed to highlight in front of them. It is incentive you will get if you will able to accept the idea. So there is those things are there. Conventional practices of the financial management. The accounting system to change the accounting system from the conventional account to the modern accounting system. As per accounts agreement, जो भी कर रहे हैं अभी धीरे-धीरे the things are changing every day. How the digitalization is actually taking place, how the people are more involved with the all different sort of distribution or disbursement of the money in the organization, but there is a some sort of rigidity. Organizations are not interested to change them. This is one of the very important. Now, with respect to the input and expenditure, apart from NRW, non-revenue water, non-revenue water means water is supposed to pay because urban local body invested some money and expecting some returns against that. That was NRW. This is UFW, unaccounted for water. The water whichever actually extracted from the source, but somehow lost in the process. Maybe in the process of treatment, maybe in the process of transfer, maybe some other reasons. And some other reasons includes water theft as well. Every year we are reading in the newspapers of Bhopal, Polar का pipeline टूट गया, Polar का pipeline टूट गया. अरे वो टूटता कैसे? We did two investigations in Polar. One related to the transportation, another related to the local area. In both exercise, we also took consideration of the services. Under the investigation of services, we realized illegal tapping of water from the Polar pipeline is the biggest reason for the accidents happening with the Polar pipeline every year. Now, the next question will come, how to manage that situation? How to avoid that situation? How to avoid illegal tapping of the water? Definitely people will tap if we are not giving water to them, they will take water anyhow. We're supposed to come up with some solution, some we need to think about it. At the same time, land availability is one of the biggest trouble. Once the area is already developed, and now you are asking for the additional land for the expansion of the water distribution station of that particular area. Water distribution station means that assembly whichever providing water, ticket includes elevated service reservoir, some underground water tank, and pump station and all. टंकी बनाया था 10 लाख लीटर का था, पॉपुलेशन बढ़ गया, डेंसिटी बढ़ गया, एफएआर बढ़ रहा है धीरे धीरे, गवर्नमेंट मिल रहा है, आगे जाएगा. अब पानी के देने का व्यवस्था, वट एवर द सिस्टम वी आर डूइंग, दैट इज similar it was earlier. Generally, we used to design our standard design period for the water supply system is 30 years. But in most of the cases, we are exhausting system within 10 years. Okay. In context of India, in the bigger cities. So, land itself is a big trouble for WTP, for WDS, for network. See, even in case of the laying of the pipeline in the old city area, that was challenge. Recently, one project related to the sanitation management was executed in the city area. So the traffic and the functions and activities of old city area actually not permitting for an excavation to lay the pipe. So how to provide the water, how to develop these networks? Ultimately, we are dependent on the ground. Then delays in the project, always because of the some reason, because of the any, sometimes political reason, sometimes social reason, sometimes market reason, reasons are there. Sometimes administrative activities or stages, they are responsible for the delays. And delays creating again successive trouble from the project. Number of legal clearances are required from the number of agencies. How to accelerate the process of clearance? Okay. The coordination among the stakeholders. Brokerage firm JM Financial says the government's null se jal scheme is required around 6.3 trillion water if we are going to execute it as per the standard design. In standard design, we are supposed to provide not less than 200 liter per capita water in the urban areas, more than lakh population. So in that case, once our water rate is very high, how to come up with the raw water as well as the infrastructure? Bank of America advised to invest $270 billion in next 5 to 15 years. Like out of this 270 billion, they gave some sort of assessment and the water investment required in the different activities. And this is only for the 5 to 15 years. Namami Gange Mission and then Pradhan Mantri Krishi Sinchai Yojana and piped water supply. So piped water supply requirement itself is a 94 billion. Next one is equity. 17% of the urban population is residing in slum in India on an average. And of course, whomsoever is residing in the slum, they are also required water. Even in case of the notified slums, we are not talking about non-notified slum. Even in case of the notified slum, a lot of slums are getting water as a community supply rather than the individual household level supply. Means 10 posts are there, community taps are there. Okay. And the water whichever provided in these vulnerable areas is hardly 70 LPCD or even less than that. Out of the total water loss, 20 to 25% is expected as the water we are losing in the theft, water theft. Another big trouble is flat rate system for the tariff calculation. In any LIG company, family living with four family members, they are also paying 200 rupees per month. And in any means very developed elite colony with the number of rooms and the big house and the car and the garden and the everything, they are also paying 200 rupees per month. This is the flat rate system. So wherever the consumption is very high, they are paying similar wherever the consumption is negligible or minimal. Right? So sometimes these differences, these variations are creating some sort of agitation within the people. And people are reluctant to pay. People are reluctant to pay the user charges to the urban local body. That's why our deficit is so high. Another observation is that water scarcity in slums and vulnerable colonies are actually responsible for the open defecation. If they do not have good amount of water, sufficient amount of water, they are not at all interested to use their toilets in their house. Rather than they prefer to use open defecation. This is one picture of Delhi, how the people are getting water in the slums wherever the most of the time, even the stand posts are also not able to satisfy the needs of the people. And accordingly, they are calling the tanks. Sometimes these tanks are free of cost, and sometimes these tanks are on the payment basis. Output. The big effort for the source augmentation is very one of the important issue. Even in case of the Bhopal, I'm not able to recall. I'm here in Bhopal from last 10 years. Proper dredging of lakes, upper lake, proper lining. I don't know, these activities are happened properly in last 10 years. Sometime because of some pressure of the community groups, activists, and the people from the society, a little bit dredging they are managing on these particular corridors. जो अपना क्या बोलते हैं मेरिन ड्राइव वाला कॉरिडोर अदरवाइज सीआईपी रोड वाला otherwise there is no such proper dredging. They are not at all interested to maintain capacity of the lake. Once the silt is coming continuously with the flowing water, definitely they are losing the capacity because it is accumulated at the bottom of the lake, and that's why the rate of evaporation is also very high. Now, as large amount of area is already water stressed and the population increasing, okay, with a certain rate every year we are developing one Australia. Okay. On 19th of January 2023, we got the first position in the world with respect to population. Now we are the most populous country of the world. Our population on that particular date is 1.417 billion. 1.417 billion. And the China's population on that particular date was 1.411 billion or 1.412 billion something. So we surpassed that particular hurdle and now we are number one. And every year we are coming up with one Australia, in one population of the one Australia. And this is another big trouble because ultimately whatever water we will augment, we process, we provide to the people, our requirement is also water losses, big trouble, 50%. Even in case of the Bhopal, relatively 40 to 45% is water loss we are facing every year. And in case of the Indore, they are hardly 15% behind. So in Madhya Pradesh, our water loss level is very high. Of course, we discuss about the delays, and those delays are also ultimately, as output, we are getting the cost overruns. Every project is facing the cost overrun because we are not able to execute the project within the design period or within the time allotted to that particular project. And the magic is sometimes government is not having any strategy to support these cost overruns. And what is the ultimate result we are getting from that? Ultimate result is incomplete project. तो जैसा प्रोजेक्ट जिस पोजीशन में होता है उसका उद्घाटन होता है उसको यूज करने दे दिया जाता है जितना आपको मिला मिला नहीं मिला नहीं मिला अगली बार देखेंगे नई स्कीम को टैप करने की कोशिश राइट अनदर थिंग इज unaccounted inflation. Yes, of course, as a civil engineer, architect, professionals, we are taking consideration of inflation also. पर किसको पता था कि यूक्रेन रशिया का वॉर होगा? किसको पता था कि इन्फ्लेशन जो हमने सोचा वो होगा ही वो तो कुछ और ही होगा, राइट? So inflation cannot be predicted, and unpredictable inflation is creating trouble as unaccountable inflation. And ultimately, this unaccountable inflation is also responsible for the incompletion of the project or a compromised project on the design skills and all. Operation and maintenance. Yes, the system efficiency is weak. Okay. Once we are talking about efficiency, means input divided by output. Sorry, output divided by input. Once we are giving some input, we are expecting some output from it. Hardly any system. We can talk about the intake structure for the extraction of water from the water source, the rising main, water treatment plant, trunk line, water distribution station. The complete service chain of the water supply system, each and every component is not able to provide the 100% efficiency in case of the most of the cities in India. Okay, fine. If it is not 100%, but at least we are expecting 90-95%. But the efficiency is hardly 75, 65. in most of the cities. Interrupted electricity. Okay, our condition is far better in Madhya Pradesh, especially Bhopal and other cities. Just go to the cities in other states, Uttar Pradesh or any other state, wherever they are having the power deficit. ट्रीटमेंट प्लांट चलते चलते बंद होते हैं, वाटर डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन स्टेशन के पंप खराब होते हैं, बंद होते हैं. These type of troubles they are facing. Impurity in the raw water. Based on the selection of the raw water source, sometimes with respect to the limitations based on the available sources, if the impure or a weak source we are having, then definitely it is another big trouble. As the source is weak, source is more impure, then the cost of treatment, process of treatment will also increase. And how to manage those requirements in all sense, operation means and finance means, in any case. Then technical difficulties, capacity overloading, treatment efficiency. See, a lot of urban rural bodies are having 20-year-old, 15-year-old water treatment plant, 25-year-old water treatment plant. And the population is already increased up to a certain limit, which is already gone beyond their capacity to supply, the maximum capacity to supply. But as the pressure is more with respect to demand and the sources are limited or functional structures are limited, those are overworking, overutilization of the infrastructure. Underutilization of infrastructure and overutilization of infrastructure. Both situations will not support the cause. Always will balance utilization of the infrastructure. But there are a number of examples of the overutilization of the infrastructure. Increasing demand create pressure on the water treatment plants continuously and preparation for the emergency shutdown. There is no preparation for the emergency shutdown. In case of any emergency, any type of emergency, take it. It is always a big trouble. 2 दिन पानी नहीं है. ये तो छोटा मोटा चीज को we used to see in Bhopal as well. ठीक है. Seasonal issues. There is no strategy with respect to seasonal issues. In the winter, the scenarios are different. The impact of the season or temperature variations are different on the network and the system as a whole. In the summers, the situation is different. If we follow the design, whichever used to do by the developed countries, they are very much taking care about the seasonal variations. How seasonal variations can impact the system and what will be the remedies we supposed to adopt to avoid those seasonal variations to maintain the efficiency of the system. कैपेसिटी बिल्डिंग. कैपेसिटी बिल्डिंग तो तब करेंगे ना जब कैपेसिटी बिल्डिंग करने के लिए लोग हो. Deficiency of human resources. Most of the urban local bodies, government organizations, institutions, including SPA, ठीक है, they are facing the deficiency of the human resource. Poor skills and unprofessional behavior of the workers. This is another big issue. ठीक है. The skills are not there. We are not able to develop the skills of the workers. Their behavior is also not proper. No technology upgradation or slow technology upgradation. Whichever technology adopted by progressive cities in India, like I visited to Indore, one of the sewage treatment plant in Indore, and I asked them what is technology you are actually going to adopt. That plant was under construction. Very proudly they told me, sir, we are going to use SDR, sequential batch reactor. मैंने कहा भाई वो लोग करके छोड़ दिए. बोले सर अब तो हमारे बजट में यही है. This is another scenario. Whichever technologies more or less obsolete or not very prominent, very useful nowadays, those technologies are we adopting in our city. Less awareness with respect to new trends, reluctance for the innovation and adoption. Then what is the outcome ultimately? Uncovered population, illegal practices. Per capita supply is less than the required supply. Not able to adopt the decentralized water supplies. कैसे करेंगे? With the constraint, financial constraint, operational constraints, human constraints, with number of constraints, land, water, funds, absence of a detailed monitoring. Very few cities in our country are having some system wherever they are having the proper monitoring and assessment system for the services. And loss of the precious time. Ultimately, the result is loss of precious time and human productivity. So human activity is finally compromised with all these because of all these issues. इतना परेशान है, बहुत परेशान है। हम लोग नहीं है इसका मतलब ऐसा नहीं है कि बाकी लोग सर ये फोटो इंटरनेट से मिली, मुझे नहीं मालूम था। नहीं मैं ऑनेस्टली बता रहा हूँ, मुझे नहीं मालूम। मैं कुछ ऐसा परेशान सी फोटो ढूंढ रहा था, वो मिल गई, तो मैंने सोर्स भी नहीं दिखा। जहां पर सोर्स पता है सोर्स लिखा है, जहां नहीं पता वहां नहीं। Then what are the opportunities? Now concluding in 3-4 slides, I will not take more time. Kindly bear with me. Till date, we do not have proper urban water policy. We have urban water policy only in academia and research, not in practice. As a teacher in academia, we are doing something with it. We develop some indicative type of policy, talk about policies. We have national water policy, but national water policy not for the urban water system. That is for the overall water resource management. But urban water policy जैसा कुछ नहीं है. Lot of countries are having their urban water policy. इंडिया के पास नहीं, किसी स्टेट के पास भी नहीं. एकेडमिया में है, अगर कभी सरकार को सिस्टम को लगेगा कि भाई थोड़ा सा इन लोगों को यूज करके कुछ बना है, तो हो सकता है शायद कुछ. ठीक है, वर्तमान में तो कर रहे हैं सर, ये तो ऐसी बात हुई ना सर. वर्तमान में उनके पास है तो गाइडलाइंस. सर गाइडलाइंस वी आर हैविंग टेक्निकल एक्सपर्ट्स आल्सो. सर अभी तक मैं सर इस सेक्टर में पिछले कुछ साल से, मैंने 17 इयर्स को हो गए, और अभी तक भोपाल में 10 साल हो गए, मुझे अभी तक कोई डॉक्यूमेंट मिला नहीं है. शायद अगर हो, मुझे नहीं पता हो, तो वो अलग बात है. अगर आपके पास हो तो प्लीज शेयर करें, तो शायद मेरे को समझने को जानने को मिलेगा कि कुछ है. क्योंकि हम लोग सरकार में जाते हैं, कई एक्टिविटीज में हम लोग उनके साथ कोलैबोरेट करते हैं, उनके एडवाइजर्स रहे हैं अलग अलग एक्टिविटीज में. डॉक्यूमेंट जैसे अगर आप देखेंगे तो आपको एक प्रॉपर पॉलिसी फ्रेमवर्क दिखता है. नेशनल अर्बन सैनिटेशन पॉलिसी, अर्बन ट्रांसपोर्ट पॉलिसी, और आपका क्या बोलते हैं ये है टीओडी पॉलिसी. बट अर्बन वाटर पॉलिसी जैसा प्रॉपर पॉलिसी डॉक्यूमेंट नहीं है. वो कहीं ना किसी डॉक्यूमेंट में वाटर को उन्होंने कंपोनेंट वाइज देके निकाल देते हैं. नहीं, वो ब्रॉड गाइडलाइंस होगी सर, ऐसा नहीं. मास्टर प्लान का तो पर्पस ही अलग है. आप तो उसमें ही तो वाटर की पॉलिसी डॉक्यूमेंट का पर्पस क्या होता है, और उसके ऊपर तो फिर हम अलग से बात कर सकते हैं, इस लेक्चर में भी कर सकते हैं. लेकिन पॉलिसी शब्द का मतलब ही अलग है, जरूरत ही अलग है. खैर, दूसरा है सिटी वाटर प्लान. जब सिटी सैनिटेशन बन सकते हैं तो सिटी वाटर प्लान नहीं बन सकते. जब स्टूडेंट बनाते हैं हमारे यहाँ पर एक मास्टर प्लान ऑफ द वाटर सप्लाई सिस्टम ऑफ द सिटी, तो उसमें वो अलग अलग पर्सपेक्टिव, डायमेंशन, एस्पेक्ट, कंसीडरेशंस, प्रोग्रेसिव अप्रोच, सिनेरियो डेवलपमेंट सब कुछ करते हैं. तो एकेडमिक लेवल पे सही, एकेडमिक लेवल पे क्या होता है, लेकिन ग्राउंड में आज तक कोई अर्बन वाटर प्लान जैसा कुछ नहीं. आपका मोबिलिटी प्लान है ट्रांसपोर्ट के लिए, आपका सैनिटेशन प्लान है सिटी सैनिटेशन प्लान सैनिटेशन के लिए, बट कोई डेडिकेटेड अर्बन वाटर प्लान नहीं. कुछ लोग डीपीआर बनाते हैं किसी वाटर सप्लाई प्रोजेक्ट का, और उसको मास्टर प्लान ऑफ वाटर सप्लाई सिस्टम ऑफ सिटी नाम दे देते हैं. पर अगर आप उसको देखेंगे तो वो प्लानिंग डॉक्यूमेंट नहीं, वो एक डिटेल प्रोजेक्ट रिपोर्ट होती है एग्जीक्यूशन के लिए गाइडलाइन. तो वाटर प्लान क्या होता है, सिटी सैनिटेशन प्लान अगर आप देखेंगे, मोबिलिटी प्लान आप देखेंगे, या सिमिलर टाइप के आप प्लान देखेंगे, देन यू विल रियलाइज कि एक स्ट्रक्चर्ड प्लान कैसा होता है किसी भी इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर कंपोनेंट के लिए. टैक्स प्लान बनाता हूं, उसकी बात कर रहा हूं. टैक्स बनाते हैं वाटर बॉडीज के लिए, टैक्स बनाते हैं डिफरेंट अर्बन एरियाज में. वो बहुत किस बात पर सर, वो तो इन्वेंटरी डेवलपमेंट ऑफ द वाटर बॉडी जो बीच में हुआ हमारे यहाँ पर बहुत कुछ. ठीक है, तो उसके बाद वाटर बॉडी टू वाटर बॉडी प्रोजेक्ट आइडेंटिफाई हुए, प्रोजेक्ट के लिए डॉक्यूमेंट बने. फाइनेंस के ऊपर भी with respect to investment requirement, where from where we are actually going to arrange the finances, उसके लिए कुछ तैयारी हुई। पर जो एक स्ट्रक्चर्ड वाटर, वो अर्बन वाटर प्लान सिटीज के, वो दिखने में नहीं है। देन सिटी स्पेशल सिटी का जो डेवलपमेंट है, उसका जो अप्रोच है और जो इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर डेवलपमेंट का अप्रोच है, वो जब तक आइसोलेशन में होता रहेगा तब तक ये ट्रबल रहेगा। या तो उसको कॉम्पेयर जाए या एक्सटेंशन किया जाए कि भाई दिस इज द ओवरऑल विजन एंड विद रिस्पेक्ट टू विजन on the same vision we are developing these different type of infrastructures. Okay, participatory planning का issue है। Very hardly we are asking people कि what are the troubles you are facing and how we can come up with the solution with respect to the water supply. Water supply specifically पूछकर कितने बार investigation हुआ है, अभी तक hardly सुनने में आता है। Yes, some tentative solutions provided by the some of the experts, like a public-private partnership or a financing. Abhi recently, Indore Municipal Corporation came up with the bonds, municipal bonds, to generate the funds to invest in the infrastructure. But Indore Municipal Corporation ने वो एक credential establish कर दिया। They have already established their credential. So Ahmedabad Municipal Corporation they established their credential. Okay, that's why people are interested to purchase the bonds. What do you see? Bhopal Municipal Corporation introduced the municipal bond. How many people who purchase those bonds? आप में से कितने लोग तैयार होंगे? मैं खुद नहीं होऊंगा तो आपको कैसे कर सकता हूँ? Right? More or less consumption based leverage system के लिए इंट्रोड्यूस करते हैं कि भाई जितना कंजम्पशन हो रहा है उतना इलेक्ट्रिसिटी का जैसा रहता है वाटर के लिए, अगर इलेक्ट्रिसिटी के लिए जैसा है तो वाटर के लिए करेंगे, अकाउंटेबिलिटी रहेगी, वेस्टेज के ऊपर कंट्रोल होगा, यूजर चार्जेस इंप्रूव होंगे। बट कहीं ना कहीं पॉलिटिकल विल बहुत बड़ा रोल प्ले करता है दिस पर्टिकुलर एस्पेक्ट। वन अपॉर्चुनिटी इज दैट द कैपेसिटी and coverage we can increase because recently in the union budget 2023 60,000 crores are dedicatedly allocated for the water coverage। ठीक है, at the same time 15th फाइनेंस कमीशन के अंदर भी वाटर कंपोनेंट के ऊपर 71,042 crores rupees allocated हुआ है। So these are opportunities. This fund smartly we can use, but all these funds which are coming under the finance commission, those are the conditional। ये कंडीशन फुलफिल करो तब ये फंड मिलेगा, इस स्टेज के ऊपर ये फंड मिलेगा। होता क्या है, तो बेसिकली द मेन प्रॉब्लम इज दैट कि those conditions are actually not able to fulfill by the local bodies, and that's why they are not able to tap that fund properly. Then with respect to the input, equity and output, the adoption of contextual technical analysis is very much required efficiency. कोई भी हम स्टैंडर्ड फ्रेम ले लेते हैं, we just adopt any standard frame from any popular source। अब इंदौर मॉडल अप्लाई करो, इंदौर मॉडल अप्लाई करो, अरे इंदौर मॉडल भोपाल पे अप्लाई कैसे होगा? भोपाल का रूटिंग टेराइन है ऑन द शेडो ऑफ विंध्याचल रेंज, पूरा टेराइन ऐसा है, इंदौर फ्लैट है, ठीक है, बिकॉज ऑफ द प्लेट ऑफ मालवा का। जब टेराइन अलग है, कैरेक्टर अलग है, तो कॉन्टेक्चुअल अप्रोच अपनानी पड़ेगी। अब एक मॉडल, एक फ्रेम सक्सेसफुल हो गया, एग्जीक्यूट करो, रेप्लिकेट करो, which is not practically possible। Then slum always be considered slum as a trouble or an issue, rather than we supposed to consider slum as a resource। Because in slums we are having those populations which are helping us on our each and every routine activities। आपके घर में जितने डोमेस्टिक हेल्प हैं, नंबर ऑफ डोमेस्टिक हेल्प काम करते हैं ऑन द वेरियस फंक्शंस, मोस्ट ऑफ देम कमिंग फ्रॉम द स्लम। जब एक दिन नहीं आता है डोमेस्टिक हेल्प, यहाँ पे मैडम बैठी है, तो कैसा लगता होगा वो ये जानती हैं और फिर इनके थ्रू बाकी लोग जानते हैं, है ना, अपने अपने घर पे, राइट। तो अल्टीमेटली वी आर वेरी मच डिपेंडेंट ऑन द slums or EWS colonies, but we are not considering them for the provision of services। Okay, they are not capable to provide the service user charges as per the other average provisions of user charges, but what will be the subsidies we can come up with? That thing, and we consider them as a resource rather than as a liability। And ultimately, water loss reduction is one of the very important things। The service level benchmarking (SLB) they decided permissible loss of the water will be 15%. But 85% is supposed to achieve. But what is the situation wherever we are losing almost 50% of the water? And there is no, अगर हम निकालना शुरू करें user charges not with the water itself, तो गुलाब की पाइपलाइन टूटना तो थोड़ा बंद होगा. Similar one example. And ultimately, yes, the coordination in associated agency and integration of the available resource is always big trouble. Coordination is always big trouble. So can we come up with some solution, some setup in the ULB itself, which will definitely take care about coordination only? In the transport system, at least government thought about UMTA, Urban Mass Transport Authority in big cities. And that particular organization dedicatedly for the coordination in the different type of urban transits. So we supposed to think about the urban services as well in cities. The opportunities with respect to O&M, capacity building and outcome. Yes, we can definitely think about 24/7. This is not impossible or impractical. Yes, the biggest challenge is initial capital investment. That is the biggest challenge. So for that, we can ask for the different sources, but ultimately that will definitely reduce O&M, and a lot of means once people are getting good services, definitely their willingness to pay will also improve. Then we can adopt SCADA in municipalities as well, in the small towns as well, SCADA supervisory control and data acquisition system, in which we can control the overall system operations, right? Customize the treatment and supply. क्यों एक सेम प्रेशर से वाटर देना है पूरी सिटी में आपको ट्रांसप्लांट से? वॉल कंट्रोल करने के लिए जो वॉल है हमारे पास, वो those walls are having more or less same type of phenomena. Pressure based selection of walls, pressure distribution strategy with respect to the terrain densities. ठीक है, those things definitely help in this case. Better response to recycle of water. People are very much reluctant to use the treated wastewater. But ठीक है, if you are visiting to the Singapore or Germany, whatever water you are getting from the tap for the drinking purpose, that is coming basically as a treated water from the sewage treatment plant only. But here, once you are asking me this water is treated water with tertiary treatment, best treatment, it's very much potable, even though people will reluctant to drink it. Okay, do not drink this water, but use this water in the other things. जितना ट्रीटमेंट हमारे यहाँ पर होता है वो जाता कहाँ है? कलियासोत में जाता है या और कहीं ऐसे जाता है? कहीं और क्यों नहीं जाता? वो क्यों जाता है वाटर सोर्स में? Then better responses to sufficient water for all is the ultimate aim or ultimate requirement with our all the efforts. ठीक है, with equitable distribution in urban India. So once we are able to achieve this sufficient water for all with equitable distribution, then only we can say yes, we are successful in our efforts. So, final slide before we run out of the time, please save water. This is the request from my side. And now the forum is open for the questions or discussions if you have. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Was indeed an experience learning. Any questions?
Yes.
Congratulations on the successful presentation. Very much of learning in it. I'll ask the most cliche question, which possibly a lot of architects and urban planners and urban designers might